How's it going, everybody? It's your buddy Art. Wishing you a happy Friday. I'm out here and outside in front of my apartment. Decided to do the live stream outside. I've done a few out here, actually. I have a little courtyard here in front of my apartment door, and so nice out, but it's getting windy and cloudy, which means storms are coming. And looks like if not today, tomorrow, I think this weekend, we're going to be getting some storm systems here in Austin, in Central Texas, and throughout Texas and stuff. So, but sun is still peeking out a little bit, so we'll see. I'm not going to be out here too long. Well, I'm going to be out here for a while because I have a story to tell. But again, hope you all are doing well. And everyone, thanks for checking in so far. I need to hydrate. I had a little cramp on my side before I came out here. I was like, fuck. Like right before I want to do this live stream, I'm like, all right. I was like, man, I'm feeling like crap now. So, but I feel better now, especially after, drinking some water beforehand and such. So the purpose of today's live stream, I was originally going to do this on my podcast, the Artcast, and I just decided to do a live stream because I enjoy doing these. I think I enjoy doing these a bit more actually than the podcast, because I get to interact with my friends here, with you guys, and I think more people see these videos in the long run as opposed to listening to the podcast and such. So since it's already here on Facebook, I think it's easier or more accessible for people to see this stuff. So this past Saturday actually, the 18th, was 27 years ago that I saw my first concert festival. It was the Lollapalooza festival in South Philadelphia at the old JFK site. I'd already been going to a lot of concerts for about like the past 6 months at a time, and they're all shows, like small club shows, like at a Trocadero or TLA, City Gardens, and places like that. And I hadn't really attended any large scale concerts at that time. And Lollapalooza was a festival that I'd wanted to attend for a long time. The first 2 years it didn't come to Philly. It was in it went to North Jersey, up in Stanhope. It's an area called Waterloo Village, big field. I'd been up there years later to see Phil Lesh and friends, and probably a further fest or something. But so the third year, 1993, Lollapalooza, Philadelphia was on the tour itinerary. I was really psyched because I had friends that had gone to the previous ones. They talked about how amazing it was, and the lineups were always great. So, and the 93 lineup was no exception. I mean, there were a lot of great bands on that bill that year. It was headlined by Primus, and then you had Alice in Chains, you had Dinosaur Jr., you had Front 242, you had Arrested Development, you had Tool, and you had Rage Against the Machine. And Rage Against the Machine and Tool had been second stage acts for early part of the tour. And in Philly was going to be the main stage debut, I think, of both bands. Definitely I know Rage Against the Machine, and I'm pretty sure it was also going to be Tool was also going to be headlining, or not headlining, but they're going to be playing on the main stage. So, I had friends that had gone to see the show. I think it was like the day before, a couple days before they played Stanhope. And I had friends that went up there, and I had tickets for Philly. I didn't have tickets for Stanhope. So we're we're on our way to the show and stuff, to South Philly, and my friends are like, "Oh man, you're gonna love Rage. They're awesome. You know, they kicked ass when we saw them in Stanhope. You know, now they're gonna be on the main stage. It's gonna be awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm like, I've been digging these dudes. You know, like, I have to admit, you know, the fuck you, I won't do it, tell me 17 times in a row chorus, like, did crack me up, but it was like a cool, I thought they were, you know, I was like, oh, this is cool, like, these guys are, you know, like, you know, whatever, they're giving it to the system, man, you know, they're, you know, fighting the system and all that shit, and, yeah, I just thought, I was like, this is cool, and I like the musicianship, you know, I like the combination of, you know, rap and rock, and it was all done by, like, a band, you know, like, straight off, you know, instruments, you know, no sampling or anything, or whatever, turntable stuff or anything, like, it was all just straight from, you know, drums, bass, guitar, vocals. So I was like, yeah, these guys are awesome, I can't wait to see it, you know, so picture, if you will, you know, beautiful Sunday morning in South Jersey, and me and my friend Christian were waiting for our friends Chris and Brian. Oh fuck! And I know. And did Fran? Did you go with us? You have to remind me, Fran, if you came with us. I know you were with us the other two Lollapaloozas, but '93, I think you were with us. So, you know, we all met together. We either met at my house. We probably met at my house, and maybe went to Chris's and met up there and stuff. And like I said, Sunday morning, blazing hot as hell. You know. Mid-July, just, you know, East Coast, humid as fuck, just like, just, you know, just really, that, you know, that fun, sweltering humidity, heat, summer deal. So we're heading over, you know, we get in and everything, and, you know, we get as close as we can to the main stage, because Rage is about to come on, and we're getting psyched. We're like, yes, this is fucking great. I can't wait, man. You know, seen her videos. My friends said they were awesome, you know, in concert in Stanhope. Cannot wait to see these guys, man. And like, we're all sardined up, just like, it's like, I think there were a total of 30,000 people at that show. And yeah, we're standing there. We're watching the stage, waiting, anticipating. And then, lo and behold, we see the four guys, collectively known as Rage Against the Machine. They are getting onto the stage, and they are naked. Stark naked, full-on naked. You see everything. It's like, wow, I'm watching schlongs against the machine. Or should I say shriveled schlongs against the machine. I'm like, dudes, it's like, you guys are performers, man. If you know you're going to be going out there naked, at least prep yourselves a bit first before you come out. And unless you really want to just show your true entity, or true, you know, what you truly are coming out. All I just remember is seeing hairy bodies and dicks. Four dudes fucking coming out on stage, and it looked great. At first we were like, whoa, this is great, whoa, it's fucking awesome, whoa, like I was cheering, yeah, because this is like, alright, these guys are the fucking revolutionaries that we were hearing about, that we like seen on TV, the videos, or the albums, or the lyrics, you know, interviews, whatever. Like, whoa, these guys are doing some crazy shit. So They all stand up. They all stand, you know, right on the front stage, all four of them next to each other, facing everybody, dicks out and everything. They had silver duct tape on their mouths, and they each had letters on their bodies, like drawn large. I don't know if it was in marker or whatever the fuck it was in, and it said PMRC. And if you don't know who the PMRC are, they're the Parental Music Resource Center. And basically what it was Al Gore's wife, when he was senator at the time, Tipper Gore, she started this organization called the PMRC. She had bought Purple Rain, the soundtrack, for her daughter. Her daughter was like 8 or 9 at the time or whatever, and the story goes that Tipper went to borrow the tape from her daughter to play it for her aerobics class with the other senator wives, friends, and whatever shit. And when she heard the song Darling Nikki, she was like appalled or something. Like, she heard the lyrics and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I bought this album for my little daughter, and she's listening to it, and she's heard these words, and she's heard these, and there's nothing on the record that said that it contains, this, and this, or this words, or this kind of language. So she took it upon herself and these senators' wives, who were all bored as shit, to spend, all this time and money or whatever, and start this like organization, like this self-righteous, bogus bullshit, typical 80s thing, organization, that basically just wanted to censor shit. They wanted to censor the arts. They wanted it. They wanted to put a warning out saying like, this contains these words, and it would have been real Gestapo shit if they, had actually enforced it and said, you have to show your ID to buy this record, which that happened in some cases, especially with the Two Live Crew record in the early 90s and stuff. Like, I think a record store owner got arrested for selling a kid the album and stuff, even though there was no, like, law or anything saying that you couldn't do it or whatever, unless it was a local jurisdiction law or whatever. But, yeah, so this whole thing was just like, they wanted to label records and wanted to, let parents know that, hey, you're buying this Metallica record for your kid, it's going to have these words, or this Ozzy, and they were all, they were chasing Ozzy Osbourne because this kid had killed himself and he had Suicide Solution, the album with the song on his turntable, whatever. And it was just like it was just a bullshit organization, and actually all it did was, it was the greatest marketing thing for record companies or for the recording industry. I mean, a parental advisory explicit content sticker on your album, boom, instant platinum success. The joke was that there were like artists and musicians that were like pleading with their record companies, like, please put this label on my album because we'll sell like a ton of these records. People just see that label right away and be like, oh, well, I gotta pick this up now. It's ridiculous. But you can, if you go on YouTube, you'll see the PMRC hearings. You'll see Dee Snider, Frank Zappa, John Denver. You'll see these guys give testimonies about what they think and how they feel that this is detrimental and just like just a waste of time, and like there's really nothing else you can like look into, like kids' psyches, that you think that this is what's causing them to do shit or whatever. Like, you don't think that there might be something deep-seated more psychologically, But then they decided to solve that with medicine. But beside the point, I think the organization dissolved, in I don't know, maybe a few years after. You really just didn't hear about them anymore. Like, it kind of, became a bit of a joke. I mean, they might have been like relevant in the 90s, early 90s, well, just because, record labeling was just such a common thing at that point with putting the parental advisory stickers, on there. I mean, I love that George Carlin has an album cover, and the entire album cover is the parental advisory explicit content labeled. So that's what people really thought of, that whole thing. So in 1993, I'm not sure how many people were aware of that organization, though. Like, I mean, people my age, I was in 93, but it's July, so I'm still 19. So I'm 19. Maybe anyone, I don't know, 18 and above at that time period, maybe 17 and above, like maybe 16, would know of that stuff that was going on, and the PMRC, or like knew the PMRC. But I think at the same time, a lot of people didn't know, even if, and maybe even in my age range or whatever, and younger folks totally didn't know about it. And when I tell the story and when they see the photos, PMRC, people are like, what's that? Or if I, talk about, like, I bring it up, well, they had this written on their chest. Well, what's PMRC? And I got to go into that explanation as I just did here. So basically, Rage Against the Machine, they're protesting censorship. And I remember just thinking, like, later on I was thinking, like, they're I don't think the PMRC is relevant or exists. No, that's not to say that, of course, censorship is still a thing, and censorship is a thing you're always going to be fighting, especially as a creative person, artist, and but as far as that specific organization, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if people really even knew what that was, because I think that really confused people. But like I said, in the beginning, these guys are on stage, naked as fuck, pure ass naked, not doing anything. The bassist, he leaned his bass against one of the amplifiers, and it like let out this like feedback, and it was just feedback for like the entire time. I think it was this was like maybe 15 minutes. I feel like it was like. I think it was like 15 minutes they did this, because they would have played, I don't know, they probably would have played a half hour, maybe, I don't know how long their set was, but things, if they even had, I figured they would have maybe more than 15 minutes, especially being on the main stage, even if you're just, you're an open act, but you're like one of the hottest bands around at the time. But, first 5 minutes were like, yeah, it's awesome. Next 5 minutes, it's like, okay, are they gonna play something? And then and then people starting to get like pretty pissed. And by the last 5 minutes, it was like, fuck you, fucking asshole, get the fuck off the stage. People are throwing shit at it, the stage and stuff, like really pissed off and stuff. And then they kind of look, and they're all like kind of looking at each other like, they got the fucking cover in their mouth. They're like, so we're like, it looked like they're about to do something, and we're like, okay, maybe they're finally gonna play. So finally they turn around, and like Tim C grabs his bass guitar off the amp, and we're all like, yeah, finally, yeah, all right. And then they just walk off the stage. Which I read as soon as they got off the stage, they were arrested for indecent exposure, and probably that's it or whatever. But and we were just like, what the fuck, like, gee, like, dude, like, what the fuck is this, the protest shit, but fuck, like, what the fuck is going on here? It was like really just, it was like, oh man, like, what the fuck just happened? Like, they just spent their set time to protest, or something. And when I tell people this, I've told the story several times, and when I tell the story, and maybe if I heard it too, I would have been, had the same reaction or similar, but like, because I, if I had not been there or such, just hearing the story. But when I tell the story, a lot of people are like, oh man, that's pretty fucking cool. Wow, that's great, that's awesome. And I'm like, no, it wasn't fucking cool. It was a fucking douchebag fucking move on their part. They screwed their fans that day, especially Philadelphia. Your debut, your main stage debut is in a big market city like Philly on the itinerary, and you're gonna do that to those fans, to us. I spent like $35 on that ticket. That's like the most I've spent for a ticket, and it was worth it because it was a full 12 hours, and it was all these bands, and it was bands I wanted to see, and the experience was amazing and everything. But Rage Against the Machine, you fucking fucked us. You fucking screwed us, and I fucking hated that. As soon as I saw that, I was like, this is a gimmick band. Like, I could almost be like, all right, this is your gimmick. All right, like, you're, Like, this is your gimmick to, like, outrage and to make statement and to be guerrilla type shit, hostile, whatever. I fucking hated it. I just thought it was bullshit. I really just thought that they really screwed people over that day. And, you know, and since then I've had like a little sting, you know, with them. Like, I'd listened to their other albums afterward. You know, Evil Empire I think is a better record than the first record. You know, the first record has some classics, you know, Killing in a Name, you know, Bullet to the Head and stuff like that, and Know Your Enemy. But I like Evil Empire personally anyway, better so. But I mean, man, I was so fucking pissed off at that man. I know a lot of people were too. You know, I've been hyping this, talking about this on my podcast for a while now because, you know, I've been really waiting to talk about it in a forum like this, and I feel like telling this story here on video maybe is sort of like a closure, you know, for me, whatever, with this. You know, I mean, not that I'll ever let it get to me like every single day of my life or everything, but like whenever you know, they come up, whenever, you know, I always have this thing in the back of my head, like, oh yeah, those guys. You know, the fucking pranksters, you know, the fucking, like, let's go on stage and, you know, and be naked and let them talk. And, you know, I remember for years I was trying to find out the reason why that happened. And, you know, before the internet, you'd hear things. And, like, one rumor that I heard that I shot down immediately was that apparently they wanted to perform Cop Killer, and the promoters were like, no, you can't do that. So they decided to go ahead and do what they did. And I never heard any other. I looked that up several times. I never seen that mentioned anywhere else, and it's possible, but the year before they let Chris Cornell. Sorry about these interruptions, folks. I'm doing this on my phone, so you're gonna see. I got these stupid updates, and someone just tried to call me, so I apologize for that. But so anyway, as I was saying, you know, Chris Cornell sang it the year before at Lollapalooza, so I don't see why that'd be a problem. But then again, Philadelphia is a very cop-friendly, you know, city, and the police unions like are, you know, they make themselves out to be the gods of that city, you know, and such. So I can almost, in a way, see them. I mean, when Body Count came to Philly to play the Tower, they had to cancel the show because I guess police were providing security at the time, and they said they wouldn't, and you can't have a show without security at the venue or in general. I guess, or whatever. So that was a thing. But as I said, I tried to look up this story and I didn't see anything valid towards it. What I did see was an interview with Tom Morello. So, you know, I don't forget what year it was I read it, but it might have been like a couple years ago when it was the 25th anniversary, and there was an article about it on one of the Philly radio websites, XPN, thekey.org. It was on their site, and maybe it was on. I know that article was in there, and I think the quote was in there. But I remember reading about, like, Tom Morello was like, well, he's like, we saw people getting hostile, we saw them getting upset, and that's what we wanted, because we wanted to show them, you know, we wanted to teach them, don't take anything for granted, blah blah blah. You know, they were protesting censorship. Fuck you, Tom Morello. Like, fuck you, dude. Yeah, fucking arrogance. Like, oh, you know, we're teaching them a lesson. I thought your songs were the fucking lessons, dude. You gotta fucking give us lessons of playing a 20-30 minute set. You know, that we were looking forward to, that we wanted, that, you know, that you were to provide, you know. And your songs are supposed to have the messages, right, and the lessons and shit. So, and you can, like, do your rants or whatever between your songs. You know, the lesson shit. Now, granted, still talking about this 27 years later, and you know, like I said, an article was written about a couple years ago. There's videos on it on YouTube. If you do a search, if you do like if you do like a search, just, you know, Google RATM PMRC, you know, with the space in between those two, and you'll see like articles and stuff, and you know, so in a way that people are still talking about this, as opposed, like, would they still be, like, if they played a regular set, like, what would people still be talking about? I mean, they could have put on a kick-ass set, and you could still be like, hey man, they put on one of the best fucking sets at Lollapalooza, like they were one of the best bands that day. But you know, instead, I'm talking about how Tool was tremendous. I'm talking about how Alice in Chains was awesome, how Primus was amazing, you know, and all these other bands that played. But like when you know, Rage Against the Machine, it's just, you know, I can't sit there and say, yeah, they were awesome. I could just sit there and say, well, my friends told me they were awesome, and I've seen videos, but who fucking cares? You know, I wanted to see them that day, and then the other times they've come back to town, like, I was just like, I don't know, maybe they sell out a venue or just not interested and whatever. But you know, I about a month ago, I emailed I put a thing on Facebook, you know, asking if any of my friends had been at that show that day and what they thought. And I had quite a few number of friends that were there, and they were like, you know, yeah, you know, same thing. It felt ripped off. Felt like what the fuck is this? Like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, you know, this is, you know, and yeah. I mean, I after that, I just like didn't really want to take them seriously or take them less seriously. I mean, look, like they're extremely talented musicians. I mean, you know, Tom Morello's guitar work is it's you know, it's so unique, and it's, you know, the riffs he plays, and the record scratched DJ, you know, the turntable sounds that he incorporates, and the wah-wah pedal, and his technique is awesome. You know, like he developed a really cool ass technique so they could do like hip hop kind of stuff. And you know, Tim C, awesome bassist. You know, Zach's lyrics. You know, the band, you know, the band is talented as fuck, and that's why I wanted to see them, and that's why I was so annoyed that, you know, I didn't get to see them that day, because they wanted to pull some little publicity stunt to add to their lure of being revolutionaries or some bullshit thing. And first off, you know, however petty this sounds, I mean, this is how I feel. I mean, first off, you're on like the biggest fucking music entity on the planet, Sony Music. You know, you're not on an indie label. You're not on some like even you know, pseudo indie label or whatever. You're on like a big fucking record label that like that's like all over the world. Now, of course, with that exposure, you can get your message out, you know, to more people, and your agenda and all this stuff, and you reach out as, you know, further, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, but like, you know, you do that, you do that shit, you know, you make videos, you know, again, like, just get your message, you know, get your message out there, and but you're playing under the fucking puppet strings of MTV and Sony, you know. I mean, look, I mean, Sony did give them a good amount of freedom, because I mean, you know, for them to be like, you know, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, like over and over and over and over and over and over again, you know, they let that slide, whatever, you know, and you know, they're all like highly educated, you know. I know like Tom Morello, you know, he graduated from Harvard, you know, Zach, he has his stance on things and stuff, you know, and they're proactive with like whatever, they went to the Occupy Wall Street, you know, they've interviewed Noam Chomsky, whatever, and all this kind of shit. But I don't know, like after that day, I just like didn't really just take them seriously. I just was like, well, you're just a gimmick band, okay? You're just this like gimmick political, you know, fuck the system, fight the system. I mean, it's perfect. It was perfect for that time period. It's perfect for like, you know, the age range that like really latched onto them. I mean, like I said, I was 18 when I first heard them, and I was like, yeah, these guys are fucking great. Like, yeah, fuck you, won't do what you tell me. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck the establishment. Fuck that. You know. You know, they're part of the establishment, though, in my eyes. You know, I mean, they were just like another rock band to me. You know, like people like take them seriously and are like, yeah, man, fucking rage, and they fucking hate these guys, and they're fucking, you know, this is, you know, I mean, there's other bands out there to me that have like really cool political ideals or stances or support cause and stuff. I mean, like Fugazi to me is like the biggest example of all. You know, I mean, that's a band that really has, you know, I mean, every band would want to have that kind of, you know, status that they do in the history of music and how they did things. They really did things their way, you know. They had their own label, you know. I mean, the legends of them turning down unsigned checks from like major labels and shit, and you know, the you know, like playing in front of the White House in '91 before the, you know, like during the Gulf War, and you know, they really, you know, they really fought against Ticketmaster. I mean, like, you know, Pearl Jam tried to, but they're just too big, and you know, they have too big of an audience to kind of like fuck with that. You know, I mean, you know, kudos to them for trying, but like, you know, Fugazi, they charge $5 for their shows, so they would always just have to find a venue that didn't deal with Ticketmaster or would like really just, you know, like this is what we're charging, and this is, you know, what it is, and no extra charges or any of that shit. You know, like they wouldn't play certain cities for years because they couldn't lock down a venue within that city that was not affiliated with Ticketmaster or anything. So they'd have to play like towns outside of like Boston or whatever, some cities and shit to do that. And so, but they played like the Trocadero and the Electric Factory. So there's somehow they've worked. I don't know how they worked that stuff out then, but anyway, like that's a band I think of who like really does what they want to do and sticks to their guns and like really has like ethics and you know, and they've been kind of like, I don't know if I say abusive towards their fan base. I mean, it's cool when they call people out in the crowd, Fugazi, when they call people out, like, you know, but their anti-moshing stance is interesting, you know. I guess it just really goes along with their straight edge, you know, ethics and stuff. But yeah, but like I think of bands like that, you know, like, or like Gang of Four, which I'm sure like is a big influence on Rage, you know. But you know, this whole, but as I said, you know, the whole naked thing, like, it was just bullshit. Like, they sorry again, folks, I had another phone call coming through. So, yeah, I just thought it was such bullshit, and so did a lot of other people. They tried to do a make good. I mean, well, they did do a make good, but when I say try to, it's like, okay, let's say 30,000 people are there. And this happened in front of 30,000 people. And then they're like, well, we're going to come back to Philly and do a make good. They're like, if you still have your Lollapalooza ticket stub, you know, come to the show and then you can get in, and we're going to play a free show. Well, they did this again. Sorry about the connection. This fucking stupid shit. So the fuck. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, they came back to Philly, like, I don't know, later in the year, probably October, November, I'm not sure when. I would have liked to gone, but I found out pretty late about it because this is, again, pre-internet. Everything you're going to hear about is on the radio, and I guess I didn't listen to that much radio back then, which I thought I did, but apparently didn't because I missed out on this news or didn't see it in the city paper or whatever. But they came back and did a free show at the Trocadero club I mentioned earlier. Trocadero is like a small club. It fits about maybe 1,000 people, maybe a little over 1,000 people in there. I mean, that's a fraction of the people that were at Lollapalooza. I mean, not all 30,000 people are probably going to go or could make it, but at least 5,000, maybe 10,000, you know. I mean, they knew they were going to fill up that place quickly, but I mean, again, I was like, that was almost like, okay, you did a make good, but it was sort of like a, you know, in my opinion, a half-assed makeup, you know. But I mean, the people that got to see it, you know, I think my friend Wellesley went to go there and see it. That was, you know, so good on you if you got to see them. And you know, I just remember being like, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. I felt got screwed again, you know? It's just like, I mean, I didn't hear about it anyway, but I mean, like, you know, trying to get down there. I lived in Jersey at the time. I'm going to cross the bridge. By the time I get there, I have to get there really early, or if it was on a school day, then I have to, like, stay after school or leave school early, whatever I have to do, you know? But I'm sure it was an amazing show. I'm sure they put on a killer show at the Trocadero to make up for that farce of a protest at Lollapalooza. But yeah, that even got me a bit more sour, I guess, too. So I don't know. Like I said, I just think the whole thing was just fucking dumb. I just think it was so stupid. You know, I mean, again, we're still being talked about, so whatever. I guess they got what they wanted, you know. But again, I'd be talking about them. You know, even if they put on a killer show, Lollapalooza, I'd be like, hey, man, I'm like, they were one of the best shows that day. They were fucking intense. You know, Zach was saying all this cool shit in between songs, and we were like, yeah, we're with you. Fuck the system and all that shit. But no, they decided to fuck Philly over. You know, on your debut main stage debut too, which is hilarious. I guess it was more effective there than doing it in the next city. Like, oh, this is our second main stage debut. And someone told me that they thought that they heard that his voice was fucked up or something, or was too scratchy or whatever, and that's, you know, from the gig before, and that's why they did the. I don't know. That's another thing I hadn't really heard about either. But maybe I haven't read enough about it because I was there. You know, I mean, if I ever get to sit down with Tom Morello or any of the guys, I'll be like, please explain to me why that happened, you know, and everything, and you know the fun, and then they're coming back, and then we're gonna come back this year to tour for 2020, and then, you know, of course, got postponed, like everything with COVID pandemic and stuff. But I mean, man, they're coming back, and their tickets are like $125. You know, with that, I mean, that's with the charges, man, that's a lot. I had a friend, one of my friends, she said she was going to go see them like in El Paso or something, but like when the tickets cost $300-$400, she was like, fuck that. I was like, yeah, and a lot of that is secondary market and stuff too, and you know, but first off, all right, charging $125 for the ticket, and they're, I remember they said this, and like a friend of mine, and people try to justify it. Oh well, they're you know, they're gonna donate that money to charity. Why are you fucking putting that fucking shit on your fucking fans? I mean, they're gonna do it, of course, because they're like, well, yeah, support, you know, I support these guys, I support anything they support, so I'll be part of the cause, dude. Like, why don't you charge the usual $50-$60? I mean, that's a reunion. It hasn't happened in like, you know, however many years. It was like 10, 20 years, whatever. You know, and people like were like wondering, like, you know, they're like, we need Rage now more than ever, you know, with Trump in office and all this shit going on and stuff. You know, they've been kind of, you know, I know like Zach had a project, or was it that Prophets of Rage? I think Morello has something coming up. You know, I haven't really heard them say much about what's going on, unless I just don't pay attention to their Twitter or if they have blogs or whatever. But if Morello or any of those guys have been saying anything about BLM or anything, or what's going on, or the protests or the riots, or, you know, or the police, you know, murders and stuff, like, let me know in the comments, because I really try to keep an open eye on things when like people are saying stuff, and I haven't seen anything from them. And when I was searching, you know, doing some research and topics for this. You know, for this episode, I didn't really see anything recent from them. You know, I think they're retweeting a bunch of stuff. You know, that's, you know, I mean, but you know, it'd be, you know, if you're really with the cause and all this stuff, then yeah, you know, it'd be cool if you know, you come out and say stuff and, you know, whatever. But I remember, like I said, like when I saw, and they got a backlash for that too. I think, like with their ticket prices, like, dude, it's like you're fucking. You know, you're going along with an agency, or you sign some kind of contract, whatever, and the tickets are like at this price, and then you're gonna, like, you know, like I said, I just love the people fucking defending them. It's like people get so defensive with their favorite bands, and I get it, but man, like sometimes you just gotta like see through the fucking wool, you know. you got to see through your fandom and be like, what the fuck are these guys doing? You know, I mean, charging $125 for a ticket, like, you gotta sit there and say, well, that's inflation, that's 2020, dude. The Primus ticket I paid for is $50, or or it's close to 60 after charges. I mean, granted, they're playing venues slightly smaller than what Rage. I guess Rage was going to play arenas and stuff. Then we're going to play Coachella this year. Or they were supposed to when that before that got sidelined and stuff with the pandemic. But man, I mean, come on, dudes. And like really be for the people. I mean, you have these gimmicks like, well, we didn't sell our shirt. I remember at Lollapalooza, well, they didn't sell their shirts at the booth stand because they're against capitalism. What the fuck you doing on a big fucking tour then? I mean, yeah, you get your exposure out there on a big tour. I get it, but they're like, I heard stories where people like went by their tour van after like their gig and like they were able to buy shirts from them directly for like $10 or less or whatever, and they were like, oh yeah, those guys are cool. It's like, I'm sure they're cool dudes, but like, man, that still was like such a big dick move. No pun intended. Like, it was just such a shitty move to do to your fans, to make that kind of impression. I mean, I'm still just like I said, to me they're just another rock band. Like, yeah, they have their agenda and their opinions and whatever they fight the system lyrics kind of shit, but I believe in bands like Public Enemy and Fugazi, like like those guys, like bands like that, like groups like that, like those are guys where you're like, yeah, these dudes are really pissed off, or they're really what they're you really believe. I mean, I could believe the validity at some point with Rage Against the Machine, but after a while, it was just like, and then it was like really just, maybe it was good that they broke up, after a while, because it was just the same, after a while. It's like, okay, like, we get it, you're pissed, the system's fucked, like, yes, we get it. This is pre-Facebook. This is what my Facebook now is like what Rage Against the Machine was. It's like you just get the same old rant about the same shit. And I get it, like, you want to be pissed off and like keep talking about like, the ills of society and the world and all this kind of shit. But yeah, it's just like with everything, it just gets old after a while unless you can like really freshen it up somehow, which is like, it's kind of hard when you're that kind of a specific band where you're like, we're this political guerrilla, anti-government, anti-establishment type group, and just see how much you can get out of it, but I don't know, who knows. I guess they'll tour next year and people see them, and if you want to pay $300-$400 to see them, that's cool. I mean, I've paid a lot of money for shit in the past, so I really can't say much. But I mean, to me, like, they're just doing things that any other rock band is doing, like as far as ticket pricing and whatever, and like I said, to me, they're just like Kiss in a way, like every band has its gimmick, every band has its way of selling itself, like it has its thing to be like, okay, this is what we are, this is what we are, and if you like it, you can follow us and stuff if you agree with this or whatever kind of thing. But I don't know, I just thought that was so shitty. And the best was Tool came on afterward, and I swear Maynard was like, yeah, I don't know what that was all about. So it just was like later on in the evening when Alice in Chains played, fucking, I love Lane Staley, I miss him, and I was so happy and fortunate to see him in concert. But he's like, hey man, I thought what Rage Against the Machine did earlier was awesome, and if you don't like it, then you don't get it. And it was just like, all right, dude, like, yeah, fine, thank you, whatever, you gotta, it's good for the rock star camaraderie and stuff. That's cool and stuff, and and I'm sure, and maybe he was sincere about it. But man, I was just like, it's like, yeah, well, dude, you get to see them. You get to see them play for the next fucking 29 days or however long many days are on the road, or how many dates they have on the road that year. So Like, they'll play tomorrow night or the next city or whatever. Like, but fuck Philly, right? You know, so all right, only in Philly, you know. But you know, they came back other times, and I know they played the Spectrum, like, you know, on their probably their last tour when they were like at that point where they're playing. I think they played with Cypress Hill or something. I feel like they did like a package tour or a co-headline tour, but they were like the headliners, I'm sure. So, but hey, you know, c'est la vie. But again, you know, what they did wasn't fucking cool. It was fucking stupid. And, you know, I would have loved him a lot more. You know, I had my moments where I was like, yeah, these guys are great. But it's just me listening to the Evil Empire CD like 3,000 times and stuff. You know, Rodeo Drive, that's a cool little ditty. You know, but, you know, it just makes them like a joke. You know, I just think it's just like, whatever. You know, and people and people hear the story. It's always going to sound cool. You know, I'm sure I've heard stories where I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, and then it's like, well, it really wasn't. But you know, but like when you hear it, you're just like, wow, that sounds amazing. You know, but then you think like you're gonna hear them say next, like, oh, well, then they played, and then that was awesome too. But there was no playing, there was no music, there was no set. There's this fucking feedback for 15 fucking minutes. This dude fucking pukes right in the middle of everybody on the ground. Oh god, that was the worst. Summertime heat and vomit and 4 hairy naked guys on stage. I'd only wish it on my best enemies. Oh god. So, well, if you've stayed this long to listen, to watch, I appreciate you guys tuning in to my live streams, and appreciate you listening to the podcast. The links are above here in the caption for both my podcast channel and my YouTube channel. This video, I'm going to save it on my Facebook page, but I'm also going to post it on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it on here, the replay. But if you miss it because everything gets pushed down, you know, when you post something new, then I'll eventually post the YouTube link for this. It'll fall under my Life of Art series and stuff. So thanks again. Sorry for some of the interruptions from either phone calls or little updates if you saw me swiping shit up at the top of the screen. I figure that might show up. I'm not sure. If it does, sorry. If it doesn't, don't worry about it, I guess. But thanks again, and I will talk to you soon.